The U.S. president has signed into law an executive order that will shut off asylum requests and deny entry to migrants on its southern border with Mexico. Once a daily threshold of 2,500 illegal crossings is met. And he spoke after signing the order just a few minutes ago.
My very first day as president, I introduced a comprehensive immigration reform plan to fix our broken system, secure our border, provide a pathway for citizenship for dreamers, and a lot more. And I'm still fighting to get that done. But we must face the simple truth. To protect America as a land that welcomes immigrants, we must first secure the border and secure it now.
And joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby. Welcome to Al Jazeera, John Kirby. I'm going to ask you about the U.S. president's crackdown on the southern border in just a second, but I want to start off with Gaza. The last couple of days, the American administration, the Biden administration, has said a deal was presented by Israel. But the Israeli government seems like it doesn't accept everything in its own proposal. And now we've just heard Hamas say it's on the Israelis to say whether they accept their own terms, and two top American envoys, we understand, are headed back to the region. Are the two sides really moving closer to each other, or is this just a lot of effort so the administration can be seen to be doing something?
I can't speak for what either the Israelis are saying publicly or Hamas is saying publicly. What I can tell you for certain is that the proposal that the president laid out on Friday is an accurate description of the proposal itself. It is an Israeli proposal arrived at after intense diplomatic conversations with us here in the United States, of course, in our team. But it was an Israeli proposal. And the very next day, the Israeli foreign minister acknowledged that publicly, that it was their proposal, and it was as they described.
Sir, I'm very sorry to interrupt you there. I have to push back a little bit about that because, of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said it's not a complete reflection of what they have agreed to. It's not accurate. So, you know, there's been pushback from the Israelis, basically. Yeah, so who's telling the truth?
Let me just interrupt you and say that I'm comfortable that this is, in fact, an accurate depiction of the proposal, the Israeli proposal. The president laid it out in stark detail. He didn't lay out every single detail, but all the big components of it, and he did so accurately, and it is an Israeli proposal. And now it's up to Hamas to accept this proposal so that we can get the hostages out, and so that the innocent people of Gaza, who have no part in this war, can get the food, water, medicine, shelter that they deserve.
But the Israeli government is rejecting its own proposal, the proposal that's been laid out by President Biden.
I've never seen anything that says they're rejecting it. I've seen some public comments by some officials that are disputing some components of it, but I've not seen some rejection of it. It is an Israeli proposal. They've acknowledged that.
Now, it's been widely reported that one reason so little food currently at this moment is entering the Gaza Strip is because Israel, of course, as you know, occupies the Rafah crossing, which has led the Egyptian side to stop aid convoys because, you know, the occupation basically contradicts the agreements, the peace pact between Israel and Egypt. Is this something that the administration is trying to change?
Of course. As a matter of fact, the president talked to President Sisi last week, and President Sisi, as a result of that conversation, agreed to open up Rafah crossing on the Egyptian side. And now we have emissaries in Cairo this week and next who will be hashing out the details of that with our Egyptian counterparts.
Right. But will you be pushing the Israeli government to remove its forces from the Philadelphia corridor?
Israelis are operating, they say, and I won't speak for their operations, but they say they're operating in the Philadelphia corridor to put pressure on Hamas inside Rafah. This is in keeping with the description of operations as they laid them out for us. They have also agreed, back to your real question about Rafah and the crossing, they certainly have agreed to permit food, water, medicine, humanitarian assistance to flow across the Rafah crossing, but right now it's closed on the Egyptian side, and that's what we're working with our Egyptian counterparts on.
Right, but the occupation obviously contradicts the agreement that Israel has with Egypt, and the Egyptians are very unhappy with that. Let's turn our attention now to, there has been an intensification of Israeli attacks across Gaza. We've seen nearly 40 people killed today alone, including some who were in a school that was being used as an emergency shelter. Now, this sort of thing is almost ordinary. It happens every day. Even President Biden says that people have, quote, every reason to conclude that Benjamin Netanyahu is prolonging this war for political reasons. If that is true, shouldn't the U.S., the Biden administration, press harder for Israel to agree to its own ceasefire deal?
As I said, the president laid this out publicly on Friday, and it was right after it was delivered to Hamas. And it was a very clear articulation, an Israeli articulation of how this war can come to an end. I can't speak or justify what Israeli officials are saying publicly. What I can tell you is in our conversations with the Israelis, they acknowledge this is their proposal. They want to see Hamas accept it, and they want to move forward. They want to get their hostages home where they belong, and they also want to see that we can move forward to a sustainable end to the hostilities.
Right, but it seems like they only agreed to the first phase and they don't want to move to the other phases. But let's focus now on some developments.
Well, but wait just a second. Wait just a second, because you raise a really good point that I want to just bring out with you. It is a phased approach, and phase one has got to start so that they can start to negotiate what phase two looks like. It's not that the Israelis haven't said they're committed to phase two. They're committed to a phased approach. But what the deal says is if you can get phase one implemented, then the two sides can start to talk about what phase two looks like and when it can start. And while they are negotiating phase two, that ceasefire will stay in effect beyond the 6 weeks.
But here's the problem, John Kirby. Hamas doesn't trust that Israel will follow through. Hamas doesn't think that they want a durable ceasefire.
Right. So what the president also said is that that the United States will guarantee that we will work to ensure Israel meets its commitments. And the deal also says that Egypt and Qatar will work to ensure that Hamas meets its commitments as well. All that's baked into the proposal.
Right. Now, we understand that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was scheduled to come to the U.S. and to address Congress. That seems to be a little bit up in the air. What more can you tell us about that?
I honestly can't tell you anything about that. That's going to be a question for members of Congress up on Capitol Hill. This is their invitation. I don't know what the status is of the acceptance of it and the date and all that. That's really a question for members of Congress.
Right. Is it a good idea?
Well, that's going to be up for Prime Minister Netanyahu to determine if he wants to come and what he wants to say, and for members of Congress to speak to. They obviously believed, and it was a bipartisan invitation. They believed that it was appropriate to hear out the Prime Minister. And again, that's really going to be for those two sides to work out.
Gotcha. All right. So as promised, want to ask you about immigration. The president just moments ago signing an executive order to curtail asylum requests and curb migration. Why is this so important? And what do you make of critics saying, he's basically rehashing a Trump policy?
As the president said in his remarks, on day one of the administration, he put forward a comprehensive immigration reform plan that Congress did zero on for the entire time he's been president. In the meantime, there has been record levels of migration here in this hemisphere alone. And it's not just in this hemisphere, it's all around the world. But certainly in this hemisphere alone, we've seen more people on the move since World War II. And we are working very hard with our partners in the region, including and principally with Mexico, to do what we can to help stem the reasons for that migration, to try to get at the root causes for that. And yet people are still coming, even though they're in fewer numbers right now. And so the president explored opportunities that he could take as president using executive authority to try to help alleviate some of that pressure. But what really needs to happen, if you really want to solve the problem, it's going to have to require legislation, because it has to come with resources and it has to come with legal authorities. And that is what Congress will not move on.
But it's pretty draconian and a very significant shift. Thank you so very much. John Kirby talking to us from Washington. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.